In a report prepared by the team at PricewaterhouseCoopers, the report shares insights on key economic dynamics of 2024, providing perspectives on their impact and implications for households and businesses, as well as the outlook for the country. The significant economic reforms which began in 2023 have continued to deepen in 2024, with increased fiscal and monetary and sectoral policies actions to drive economic growth and stability. Now, these critical reforms are yielding some positive outcomes with increased government revenues, exports, capital imports, and improved credit outlook for the country. These reforms have also led to pressure points that continue to weigh on the expected reforms outcomes: Naira devaluation, rising inflation, and interest rate issues. Well, let's seek again to digest some of these very important topics as we move to the end of the month of November. Professor Ofili Ogodioha is a professor of accounting, now University Nigeria. He joins me live from our Abuja studios to start the week on Business Nigeria. Prof, it's great to start this week with you. Thank you for being on the program.
Tolu, thank you very much for having me. Thank you
also
for us to discuss this topical issue.
Thank you so much, Prof. It's always interesting having you in. Let's start with the present state of the economy, Prof. You would agree with me that following these reforms, there have been fallouts. But I always make this a position. Many analysts threw their weight behind subsidy removal and, of course, liberalization of the foreign exchange market. But now it seems like it's a gradual process before we get to where we are supposed to be. It seems like Nigerians are not ready to be so patient. What do you make of these reforms and the present interventions that you've seen?
Yeah. Tolu, thank you. I say this is a very topical issue in our economy because everybody, big and small, is now interested in what is happening around the economic cycle in Nigeria. Then, when we look at the policies, particularly some of our policies that are driven or that are derived from World Bank and IMF advice, some of those things are not workable. They are not workable because those people, the World Bank and IMF, do not understand our own dynamics here. They just gave some of those advice on generic basis. But on World Bank advice or IMF advice, every country pick the advice of IMF based on what they need. If they give you five items of advice, you may decide to pick one or two. But in picking one or two, you should also look at your economic terrain and see how such affects your economy or how it will affect your economy before you implement it. On the issue of Naira devaluation, that is the center point of the problem of Nigerians because we jump at IMF advice to devalue the currency. Sometimes government use a very sweet language, flotation. It's not a flotation, you devalued it. So to devalue Naira to the extent that it has crippled the economy. One, Nigeria is import-oriented, up to the extent that 80% of goods we bring into we consume in Nigeria are imported. And if 80% of the goods you bring into, you consume in your country is imported, you shouldn't devalue your currency. Because if you devalue the currency, the masses will suffer. You can remember last year when the Naira was devalued to 80 Naira per dollar. 800 per dollar. I said Nigeria will suffer 2 times what they were suffering under the previous administration. Because under the previous administration, the Naira dollar rate was 460.7. You devalued it to 800. I say it is twice. Therefore, Nigerians will suffer twice because the goods they consume are imported, and they are going to import it at that exchange rate. If you look at what happened between May last year and now, May last year, the goods imported into Naira, into Nigeria, for 460, is now being imported into Nigeria for 1,727. It could be more, because if you try to exchange, you can get it 780, you can even get it 800. 1,800. If you see this, you see that Nigeria, by devaluing Nigerian Naira by 5 times, Nigerians are suffering 5 times more than what they suffer under the previous administration. If this is looked at, or was looked at properly before the government take this decision, if they had foreseen or digested what IMF advised, they wouldn't have taken it. But my advice to the government is that you can take a decision and you see that it is not working for your economy, you can reverse it. I tell you, Tolu, that the major problem of Nigeria is centered on devaluation. Even the cost of fuel. Nigerians would have accepted the removal of fuel subsidy if the Naira rate remains at 400, as it was last year. Because at that 400, you bring in whatever you are importing in, the sale of fuel can still remain at 300, even if you remove the subsidy, because of the effect of Naira. Now it has gone to the level that is uncontrollable. So our major problems are this decision taken by the government.
But Prof, allow me to come in and ask you that we got to a point where subsidy payment was gulping a lot, and we saw it practically and saw that the figures were not aligning anymore. Prof, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Prof?
I can hear.
We saw that these figures were not aligning, and government had to take a decision. But my question to you now would be, is our currency the Naira? Do you think, talking about all of these reforms and all that we've seen, do you think the currency is even appropriately priced?
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you the issue of being appropriately priced. If you check every government that come into power, they try to manage the economy, the currency, in the way it will not affect the public. Because it is a social contract you have to govern the nation and give them value for putting you there. So this government came in, they didn't look at it in that way. But I say it's still possible to revise. So if even military, they're able to manage the currency to the level it was. I remember in 1980, Naira, a dollar was 50 kobo, 53 kobo per Naira. Okay, we continued touching it, devaluating, but never allowed it to float. Because you can't float the when you know that imported goods outweigh your exported good by 80%. You can't. So that's the issue. They didn't look at it very well. Then you look at last year, when the former leader was there. He managed the currency. People advised him, push him everything, IMF, World Bank, but he refused because he knows that once he does it, the economy will suffer.
Prof, I will again interject and ask you that you remember that we had Ways and Means that hit more than 20 trillion naira. That is part of the problems we face today. And this was the previous administration, which many have said, economists, accountants like you have said, was really not the way to go. As we move for the next MPC meeting, do you think, or what do you think would dominate discussion at that gathering going forward?
Well, thank you very much. Like, I will still finish this before I go to MPC. Like I was saying of World Bank and International Monetary Fund, their projections and indices about Nigeria, they are all wrong. They projected that we shall have a growth of 3.3, and this will continue to accelerate towards 2015 and 2016. But see what we have today. We are approaching 2015, and the economic growth started shrinking down. It went down now to 2.9. And by the time we hit that 2025, it will go down even far, far less than this, which means their projections are not okay. Then you look at the inflation rate. They projected inflation to be at 32.55. What is the inflation today? Today, the inflation is at 34.17. And of course, the food inflation is even more than 40%. So when you see all these things they have been given over the years that it never work with your economy, why do we take that advice? That's one. Then we come to MPC. In MPC, yes, as it is also one of our major problems. It is a problem because the monetary policy is not in tandem with fiscal policy. And if they are not in tandem, it will never work. Take, for instance, the fiscal policy is to encourage production, encourage manufacturing, encourage farming. But the monetary policy that will enable this economy to flow in that direction it was projected is not there. Because instead of reducing the MPR to allow industrialists and companies, even the SME and big firms, to take money from the bank to grow their productions, you will increase borrowing rate. And now, you cannot borrow anything from the bank less than 35%. And if you go and borrow money at 35%, what are you going to use? What is your profit level? Your profit level is maybe from maybe 20 to 35%. And only the cost of fund has consumed 35% of your cost. So you cannot manufacture. And this is one of the reasons most multinationals have left Nigeria, because of this harsh condition. Because in their own place, you borrow money from the bank to grow your industry. In our own place, is either you carry money in your pocket or carry money in your bag and establish a company and continue taking money, whether from good source or bad source, to move. So that doesn't encourage the economy. It is the bank that supports the industry. Then again, the fiscal policy to encourage agriculture is not followed. It's not followed because agriculturists cannot borrow money at this rate. They can't, because most of them are peasants. And if you want them to move from peasantry to commercial agriculture, the loans will be available for them. I know you will now ask me, what about BOI? What about this and that? What about other banks? All those people, I tell you, some of them, more than 5% of the farmers cannot borrow money from them because of their conditions. I know all this. So I am a finance person. I know what is happening in the field. I know also what is theoretical aspect of it. So that's the problem we have with MPR. MPR should be to encourage investment, to encourage people to borrow money, to increase their productivity, and not to tighten the borrowing belt so that people will not be able to borrow. Because their assumption is that there's too much money in circulation. Oh my God. They reason again like IMF that advised them. Where is the money in circulation when people cannot eat? Those money you saw in circulation are mostly ill-gotten money, which government have to take a different action, either to frozen such account or to do something that such money should not be flowing. So that is the issue. They don't look at our local content, what is happening. Where is the money in circulation? Most people cannot pay the school fees of their children. Most people cannot even feed. Most people cannot attend even to their office, drive to their office, or transport themselves to their office because of the cost of movement. So that's the problem. I believe that the MPR should be reviewed downward to make Nigeria viable once again.
Prof, that sounds really interesting, but it's the end of the year, and let's do this in just 2 minutes. You've given advice to government, and you've said what you think should be done. But if things are done as planned or works as planned, what's your outlook for the end of 2024 and moving to 2025? 2 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. Well, the outlook is actually very bleak. It's very bleak in the sense that you already see the projection of IMF. They projected that it will accelerate towards 2025, but it's declining. And you can it's only a miracle that will make things change. And there's no miracle in management science. You have to follow the process. If you don't follow the process, I'm a management scientist. So there is no miracle there. If you don't follow the process, you will not get the actual result. The process is very easy. Make sure that your monetary policy is in tandem with your fiscal policy. That's number one. Number two, reverse the value of Naira, because there's nothing impossible for government to do. If you take it from 460 to the level it is today, the only way to make Nigeria prosperous again is to restore it. But I know why it's difficult for government to do it. Because when they sell a barrel of a barrel of oil for $1, a barrel of oil, when they sell 1 barrel and they got 400 last year, when they sell 1 barrel now, they are getting 1,700 and something. So they want to make more money. But making that more money, and the people you are ruling and the people you are administering are not feeling the impact of your administration. Are you making the money for yourself, or you are making it for the country? So that's the issue. I know the interior issue of the economy. I know where the problem is.
All right, Prof.
Because I fought some of our economists when they come and start giving us Adam Smith economic principle that don't work now. Most countries don't use it anymore. They use what is domesticated in their country. They apply the economy that will apply the economic principle that we change the economy, not what we had 100 years ago. It doesn't work anymore.
Professor Ofili Ugodioha is a professor of accounting in Naira University, Nigeria. He says it as it is. So thank you so much, Prof, for your time on the program this Monday afternoon. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof. All right. Coming up on our show, we shift our focus to economic development